Good day, everyone. This is Mylin Tacon will update you with the latest news from our beloved country only on PH News from Geo4 TV. And this is the news headlines at this moment. Different sectors that were affected by COVID-19 updates. COVID-19 is one of an historic pandemic that made a record of deaths, suffered, and lost not only in one nation but in the whole world. The novel human coronavirus disease 2019 or COVID-19 was first reported in Wuhan, China in 2019 and subsequently spread globally to become the fifth documented pandemic since the 1918 flu pandemic. By September 2021, almost 2 years after COVID-19 was first identified, there had been more than 200 million confirmed cases and over 4.6 million lives lost to the disease. Here we take an in-depth look at the history of COVID-19 here in the Philippines and its different sectors. Moda, what is your update?
Department of Health encouraged people to use masks should be used as a part of the comprehensive strategy of measure to suppress transmission and save life. The use of the mask alone is sufficient to provide adequate level of protection against COVID-19.
And now we have more updates from Visayas with Ichano. Ichano?
Yes, hello Mai. As the COVID-19 pandemic in Visayas is a part of the worldwide pandemic of coronavirus disease 2019, the virus reached Visayas on March 20, 2020 when the first case of the disease was confirmed in Bacolod. So all provinces have at least one confirmed COVID-19 case. So since COVID-19 started, many businesses have closed due to a lack of income and many people have lost their jobs. So until now, these years, the situation has remained unchanged, with many people still suffering from a lack of income, but some now are reopening their businesses. So as global food supply tightened, COVID-19 highlighted the need to improve the country's food security. So people in Visayas hope that through DA's interventions, a brighter future awaited us at the end of all.
Also, we have updates from Mindanao with Bisera. Bisera!
Yes, Mylene. The figure was from June 12 to June 18 and no death was registered. No COVID-19 infection were also logged in the province of Dinagat Island and Agusan del Sur. Caraga region also registered 15 new recoveries last week, bringing the total number of recoveries to 56,755. In Davao City, the Task Force on Coronavirus Disease or COVID-19 urges unvaccinated and individuals eligible for booster to get inoculated. The positivity rate has increased to 3%. Wednesday, June 22, local task force says slight increase in number of cases should not be a major cause of concern. That will be all.
One of the most affected sectors here in the Philippines is our education. Badayos kami!
Due to COVID-19, education issues in the Philippines have increased and received new challenges that worsen the current state of the country. With the sudden events brought about by the health crisis, distance learning modes via the internet or TV broadcast were ordered. Further, a blended learning program was launched which involves online classes, printouts, and lessons broadcast on TV and social platforms. Thus, the new learning pathway relies on students and teachers having access to the internet. This yet brings another issue in this current system. Millions of Filipinos don't have access to computers and other digital tools at home to make their blended learning worthwhile. Hence, the value of technology in learning affects many students. So parents and guardians' top concerns with this are money for mobile load, lack of gadget, poor internet signal, students struggle to focus and learn online, and parents' lack of knowledge of their kids' lessons.
Many of the Filipino citizens lost their jobs, works, businesses, and now let's know the economic impact on communities with abandon. Abandon?
Thank you, Miss Mai. So, COVID-19 has taken a heavy toll on rural livelihoods. Loss of income and job opportunities were overarching challenges in poor communities in the Philippines. Disaster-prone communities experience more difficulties in coping with COVID-19 restrictions and its severe economic impact. Results shows that the most pressing problems before and during COVID-19 were: first, lack of income opportunities and reduction of pay were pre-existing challenges but had worsened significantly due to the pandemic. Second, during the pandemic, communities reported continued insufficient food supply and health sanitation and nutrition issues. In August 2020, job losses were particularly severe in the construction sector with 56% and public transportation with 52%. However, the situation had somewhat improved by the second round in the survey in April 2021. The sector that saw the biggest improvement was retail, where reported incidence of job losses decreased by 13%. The economic impact of COVID-19 is particularly worrisome as the surveyed communities are already a subset of the poorest and most vulnerable communities in the Philippines. Following significant jobs and income losses, communities are at risk of further increases in poverty. Back to you, Mai.
Thank you, Abandon. And now let's know the updates of COVID-19 impact on micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises with Mr. Gonzalez. Gonzalez!
Good day to everyone. I am Justin Jules Gonzalez, your newscaster. This is about the impact of COVID-19 on micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. According to our credible sources, the ultimate impact of COVID-19 on the sector, which is the MSMEs, or the micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, is not yet ascertainable as the pandemic continues, with constant changes in circumstances, including the rate of infection and the patient recovery and of the policy responses. One important barometer is the number of business closures, which attempts to measure the number of permanent and temporary exits from the marketplace. These temporary closures are typically caused by lockdowns. The estimated number of small firm closures across the nation is not fully known and is likely to vary from one city to another. However, as this table shows, these are already substantial and at least some seem to support early estimates at the start of the pandemic that between a quarter and a third of all micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises could close down permanently from disruption.
COVID-19 not only affects our needs but also in our health, and now Cervantes give us updates on the impact of COVID-19 pandemic to the Filipinos on their physical and mental health. Cervantes?
Yes, Mylene, this pandemic really had an impact of the health of the Filipino people. The Filipino respondent reported significantly higher level of depression, anxiety, and stress. Filipino respondent were more likely to report physical symptoms resembling COVID-19 infection. Recent use of medical services with lower confidence, recent direct and indirect contact with COVID. Concern about family members contracting COVID-19 and dissatisfaction with health information. For the current COVID-19 and future pandemic, Philippines need to adopt a strategic approach to safeguard physical and mental health by establishing cost-effective and widely available testing for people who present with COVID-19 symptoms. The provisions of high quality and accurate health information about COVID-19 by the health authorities. The finding urged the Philippines to prevent ostracizations of particular ethnic group, learn from each other, and unite to address the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic and safeguard physical and mental health. This is Maloni Cervantes reporting here in DOH office. Back to you, Mylene.
Department of Health has difficulties on facing this pandemic, and now we have updates from Makatambad for the health system of the Philippines. Makatambad?
Yes, Mylene, health systems impact of COVID-19 in the Philippines update. The Philippine health system is highly decentralized and devolved with a mix of tax-financed public sector and for-profit and non-profit private sector providers. The Department of Health or DOH is the lead agency involved in leadership, governance, and regulation in health and provision of special tertiary healthcare services. Transport and border restrictions introduced by community quarantine measures have universally impacted health services access and delivery. On the supply side, the measures to contain COVID-19 have found away significant manpower and resources that provide routine essential services. COVID-19 pandemic brought about severe negative impact to the country. It cannot be denied that there were lessons and realizations that could be leveraged to bring about positive impact for the future. Good health governance and a whole of health approach is also needed to improve the local health systems to be more resilient, adaptive, and responsive to the needs of the people. This is Makatambad Marvel reporting.
We already have updates on the different big sectors in our country. And now, let's go on in the different barangays on how they cope up with this problem. Ortiz will give us updates. Ortiz?
Yes, Mylene, I have gathered some information about the different barangays here in Davao City on how they cope up with this current situation. Barangay Indangan gives me update on how they cope up with this current situation. Aside from administering wearing face masks and social distancing, they also practice themselves on giving people who are in need, like packing relief goods and having a community pantry. And aside from this, they also have campaign who check up every families in the area. Meanwhile, Barangay San Vicente also implemented limited social gathering in their barangay. And they also ensure that people should follow and obey what they implemented. This barangay expresses solidarity in dark times like this. That's all, and back to you, Mylene.
Thank you, Ortiz. However, let us know the Philippines' current situation on the coronavirus. Siganay?
Yes, Mai. Good day. So, in the Philippines, from January 3, 2020 to June 14, 2022, there have been 3,693,608 confirmed cases of COVID-19, with 60,461 deaths reported to the World Health Organization. As of June 4, 2022, a total of 150,995,394 vaccine doses have been administered. Furthermore, the Philippine Statistics Authority reported today that the country's unemployment rate fell from 6.4% in February to 5.8% in March 2022. Meanwhile, the underemployment rate increased from 14.0% to 15.8% as more employed workers expressed their desire to find additional work. Moreover, Department of Education Undersecretary Diosdado San Antonio and Secretary Leonor Briones encouraged all public and private schools to return to holding in-person classes for the upcoming school year 2022 to 2023. Around 73% of public schools have already resumed face-to-face classes. The 100% face-to-face classes for 2022 to 2023 means the DepEd is eyeing a blended setup wherein there are days when students will physically be present in school and some days when students will be allowed to learn at home. In addition, the general situation in the Philippines is that the country is still at a level where it is transitioning to a new normal and the state of public emergency is still in effect. As the Philippines begins to recover from COVID-19, the country is getting back on track to becoming an upper middle income country in the next few years. Enhancing pandemic response is important to cushion health and economic shocks and protect the most vulnerable. So that's it. Back to you, Mai.
Thank you so much, Siganay. Well, that's all we have today. Once again, I'm Mylan Pacon and I'll see you tomorrow. Only here on PH News on GO4 TV.